Hey guys, how's it going? I am just going live now for the first time. This is the Rewired, the show. Um, just thank you guys for support and everything that we got going on. Um, just to kind of expand and to get out there and to really show a love for everyone with PTSD, depression, just the multiple things that that we need to combat, that we're just not getting help from. Um, First off, I just want to introduce myself. My name's Garrett O'Brien. I'm sort of new to this whole platform type deal, but I have the heart of a lion. I got the heart of David. I just want to help, and I just feel for all those people who don't have um, the help that they need. So hopefully, I can be a kind of a go-to, or just somebody that can maybe give them an extra push that they need to just go on and get the help they need. First off, I just want to tell you a little bit about myself. I grew up in Southern California. I didn't have the best childhood. Um, I'll just go right into it because, yes, uh, yeah. But growing up, I had a pretty rough childhood. I starting off, being the youngest out of a bunch of kids. I had uh, a half brother, half sister, actually two half sisters, and then a full brother. Being the youngest out of all of them, and just getting along. Real young, I was a pretty outrageous kid. Like typical kids. Just full of energy, just balls of energy, just ready to go and get out there and just have some fun. But growing up a little bit, I dealt with my dad being an alcoholic. My mom, you know, thankfully we're on good terms now, and I love my mom to death. But growing up with the emotional abuse and just uh, the kind of like the psychological games, manipulation type thing, it kind of threw me for a loop. Um, my mom, I love her to death. She did all she could for me, to help us, grow and whatnot. My dad did the same thing. But I was a kid. We were always out riding bikes and just hanging out. And you know, being the youngest, you're kind of held to a different level. My childhood, it was rough. Um, I always looked up to my brother, and my sister. She helped take care of me, and my mom was working, you know, a full time job. My dad was working a full time job, barely making ends meet, and just growing up in Southern California, barely making it. Um, my dad, he was definitely stressed out most of the time because trying to make bills, trying to make rent. Well, not rent, but mortgage, and trying to take care of insurance, and just really pushing himself to the limit to get us going. We were always in sports, baseball and football, and he was always there, pushing that. And I'm thankful, I had a dad that would play catch with me, and thankful I had a mom that would support us there at the games. Um, but when I was a kid, my dad, kind of got heavily into alcohol when my brother was injured on his bike, in the hospital, punctured his spleen, and that's kind of when things started, changing around the house. I wasn't, not to sound you know, not to sound selfish or anything, but I was getting attention, but when that happened, wasn't getting attention anymore, and I kind of started acting out, and it came, fast forward to about I was about 10 years old. Actually, I think it was about 11. My dad, we went to go visit my sister in Seattle, and my dad, he was having one of his days, and he got on me, started screaming at me, hit me a few times, and I ran upstairs in my sister's room and hid in the corner, and I remember that. It's one of those things, and then kind of fast forward a little bit to when I was about 14. I started getting in trouble with the law. Did a little breaking and entering and vandalism, and just the burglary and all that fun stuff. And as a kid, you look at those things and you're like, it's not a big deal. You're just, at the time you think you're having fun, but you're really, you're being destructive and just destroying everything. And my dad, I love him to death. He passed away 5 years back on April 13th. So we already made amends. I've forgiven him for everything, just like I've forgiven my mom and all that stuff. And that's really been helpful to get to where I'm at today. But when I was 14, one thing that he said to me as we were coming back from the police station was that I was a mistake. I don't know if he was drunk or what, but that cut me down to the core. And being told you're a mistake, at that age is very detrimental to a mental health, because your brain is still processing, your brain is still growing. The chemicals really aren't fully developed yet, and you're still dealing with a lot as a teenager. On top of that, I was dealing with getting bullied in school. Middle school, I had a few bullies, and I begged my mom to let me take Taekwondo. So I got in there, and one kid who kept getting on me and kept pushing me and just would not let up. I told him to back off. He wouldn't back off, so I kicked him in the throat. That was the last time he bullied me. And I thank God my mom let me take Taekwondo, because that was one less bully to worry about. But back moving into high school, things got pretty crazy in high school when it came to being bullied and stuff like that. And it was just a lot of things that I was dealing with that nobody even knew about. My freshman, sophomore year, I was kind of, I was just, meh. I was all about skating and surfing and getting out of the house and hanging with friends and just, having a good time. Kind of moving on to, my junior year when I tried out for the football team. I made JV, made starting wide receiver. I didn't try out during the summertime. I didn't try out, during spring training, stuff like that. I kind of came in late. School had already started, and I asked the coach, "Hey, man, can I jump in?" And he gave me all the pads, all the uniform, and told me to go at it, man. Try out. So they tried me out, and I made first string wide receiver. And I know a lot of the guys on the team didn't really like that, because I took somebody's position, and not trying to cause any trouble. I respectfully, I told the coach, I don't want to take somebody's position if they've been working at it. But the coach was really pushing for getting me on first string. So I started wide receiver for Orange Glen High School JV football team, and that was when the bullying from a lot of the football team happened. these guys, I'm not going to name any names, just out of respect for them and their families. Um, but it got to the point to where I was getting, I was fearing for my life. These guys were coming to my house, breaking my windows out of my truck. At one time I had 6 of them surround me in school, and I pretty much looked at them and I just said, you know what, if it takes 6 of you guys to whoop me, and you guys got bigger problems than I do. But they never crossed that line, of actually fighting me. Because at that point, I was at 16 years old. I basically was already made up my mind that I was ready to die. It was just, I'd wished that they, all pummeled on me and just beat me to the point to where I just wasn't breathing anymore. And, they didn't do it. I don't know what it was, but, now looking back at it, I know God was on my side. And just so you guys know, this is a faith-based channel, and I will be, talking about God. I will be talking about other things regarding faith. So it's detrimental to my growing. But anyhow, it was kind of funny because I just being this little kid, 5'7", 117 pounds, just being like, come on, bring it. These guys are like 6 foot, 200 pounds, and I'm just like, really, it takes you guys to hurt me? It's pathetic. But nothing came out of that except for getting my windows broke out, getting all my stuff done, and getting all the threats and getting harassed online bullying, being called a, for lack of better terms, pansy. It was just constant, the constant pushing, constant battle that I was dealing with the school. So basically, it came to my senior year. I didn't try out for any team. I was barely even there. I barely graduated because I stopped going to school because I just got tired of being harassed, got tired of being pushed to the point to where I just wanted to die, and just kind of push through it. So this brings me to when I was 19. 19, I met a girl, and I was pretty heavily involved with her. She wasn't really good at telling me she wasn't interested in something serious, but we moved in together and just started, just doing that. And she had broken up with me, and I did not handle that too well, dealing with the rejection. Because going back to being told at 14 that I'm a mistake. I just basically sabotaged every single relationship I was in. That I'm not good enough, I'm not this, I'm not that, which is, one of the main reasons why I do affirmations now. And, it's helped me quite a bit. And, but anyways, so I dealt with that. That was the first time I attempted suicide when I was 19. I was just, I was ready to check out. I felt like, I wasn't good enough for anybody, dealing with all the bullying and stuff like that, never going to really counseling or anything like that, which counseling is very important. But just, so, attempting suicide at 19, that was the first time. After that, I got the help. I did an inpatient at a hospital there in Rancho Bernardo and stayed there for 3 days. And man, I can tell you, I tried to do everything I could to get out of that hospital. That was not a fun thing to do. I realized I made a mistake, and it was a detrimental mistake that could have completely ended my life. I bounced back from that. Got a job with the fire department at California Conservation Corps. Southern California and did that for a few years, and everything was going good. I met my first wife during that, and I had my first kid, and came to be about 2002 when I found out the station was closing, so I gave up on that. Got a job, barely making $12 an hour, and just barely making it again. The wife couldn't work because she had she was bedridden with our first child, and it didn't bother me at all because I felt good, taking care of my family. I was doing the right thing. So fast forward to 2003. That's when I joined the Air Force. Went in the Air Force, and everything was going great. I was an F-15 crew chief, so I got to work on some F-15s and change the engines out, launch and recovery, and do all that fun stuff. Kind of like Top Gun type stuff. Sitting there looking like an idiot on the flight line and feeling like one too. But that's beside the point. I had a suicide scare when I was in the Air Force. Didn't realize where this suicide scare came from. Dealing with troubles with the wife and dealing with the kid and just all that stuff, and I pushed through it. First Sergeant LaFond was the dude who saved my life that night. My wife called him, and I mean, the dude was phenomenal. Probably one of the best first sergeants I had out of my entire military career, next to my Army first sergeant. This guy, he came to the house, he sat with me, he sat with my wife, and he just basically just talked me down. He wanted me to go to the hospital. I didn't go to the hospital because I knew it was going to happen. I was going to be hospitalized for like 3 days. And I said, you know what, I'm good. I kept pushing it down. And I recommend don't push anything of that stuff down. I'll tell you why here in a little bit, because it grew into the point of more suicide attempts. It's pretty from that point on, I was looking at my military as, this is what I want to do. So it came to October in the Air Force, October 2004, and just came down that they were doing a huge force reduction, trying to get their services down to 300,000. And, a lot of you who maybe have been in the Air Force and maybe haven't, realize that parts of the Air Force can be very political. I wasn't really big on politics. I just had a job to do, and that's all I cared about was doing my job. And so I volunteered to get out through force reduction. I did a year active duty, and then once we got out, we moved to Central Oregon to help take care of my wife's grandmother, and we were there for about 2 years. I got a job as a framer and building custom houses, and just making another $12 an hour, supporting 3 kids at the time. Well, this would be 3 kids, so we haven't had our 4th yet. I learned some pretty awesome skills as a framer. Learned how to build some houses and build some custom houses and stuff like that. Learned some pretty good skills. After 2 years, $12 an hour, supporting 3 kids and a wife is not really cutting it. So I went back to the recruiters to see about going back in the Air Force, and they looked at me and they're like, "Oh, your prior service. So how about a 2-year wait list? We got too many people in still, and we'll put you on a 2-year wait list. Had you not any service before, you go right in." But no, yeah. So, I looked over and saw the Marine recruiters, and I was like, Marines. Yeah, I love you, Kevin. Love you, buddy. But yeah, Marines aren't for me. Um, Looked at the Navy. Navy was on vacation. Pretty sure they were, and saw the Army, and those guys were just sitting there playing, football with their little folded paper. And I was like, I'm gonna go talk to these guys. So, I talked to these guys in May, and I was in gentleman's course for going into the Army in June. So I did that gentleman's course. I think it was like, I can't remember, like 8 weeks long or 4 weeks or 6 weeks. I can't remember. It was probably longer than the Air Force basic. But I went in there and learn how to do Army stuff, because Air Force basic. All you really do is just run in circles and march, and they didn't even give you a weapon during your warrior week, so they give you a rubber ducky. But yeah, no. So after all that training was up, I went to learning how to do routers, switches, internet, telephone, all that fun stuff, and aced that course and got in through there, and just I was ready to go, man. I was ready. So 2006, I went in the Army. 2007, I was in Iraq. So I know some of y'all can account for that, understand all that stuff. So 2007, 2008, that's when my life changed dramatically. Apologize in advance for tearing up, but I'm still dealing with that stuff, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this, is to show people that even though I still struggle every single day, you can push through it. And I'm you have my channel, you have my Instagram, my Facebook. You can always hit me up on a private message. I will always answer you if you got something struggling. I know some of y'all have hit me up before, and I'll tell you what I know, and what I don't know, I can help you find resources for it. But 2007, deployed to Iraq, and we were in Tikrit. I thought I loved my job. Not really. I think it was more some of the people that I was around that I wanted to get away from. So I volunteered to be on a MIT team, which is a military intermediate training team, and we trained the first Iraqi Army division how to convoy. So there was a team of us of 12 sitting at Saddam's birthday palace there in Tikrit. And one of my first convoys ever, I was a driver. So, little E3, E4 as a driver, first time ever deployed. Yeah, no, I was scared. If you weren't scared, there's something wrong with you. But first convoy we had, man, we came up on a convoy that got hit by an IED. And, we pulled security, and, we pulled over and saw there was a vehicle sitting off to the side there. And it got real for me real quick. Cause we pulled up, weapons drawn, and, that's when it got real for me. I grew up in California. I grew up in the water, surfing, loving everybody, loving people, and just wanted peace and that stuff. So, this is culture shock, man. Culture shock. But, when we pulled up on that car, man, I was like, this is it. Something's going to go down. I had a bad feeling about it. But it turned out, everything was good. They weren't involved. They were just pulling off the road because they saw something happen. Thanking God for that. But we moved on. This was, I'd say probably a few weeks after that, right before Christmas. We were driving back from the main compound to our team compound, and we were driving by a fuel point, the Iraqi fuel point, just outside of the main city where we were heading. And it was odd, man. You just have that eerie feeling the entire time while you're there, and that you look over and you see just a crowd of people sitting over there staring at you. and you're like bracing for impact, man, because you're like, oh man, I mean, you're just, you know, something's gonna happen, and sure enough, man, IED hit. Um, you know, I don't know, it spooked me, man. It really did. Um, you know, thankfully that they buried it too deep where it went straight up. Nothing really happened. But still, you know, the concussive of it kind of threw us for a loop. Um, yeah, thanking God nobody was hurt. Um, you know, but I'm pretty sure some of y'all who have been in combat know that those words coming out of your mouth aren't the most innocent words. As you're sitting there, you know, I was, you know, my TC was like, punch it, punch it, punch it. And I'm like, mother, I want to find that dude. No, you know how it goes. But, you know, it was very eye opening. And then, you know, a few weeks after that, it was, we were sitting on our compound, and this I knew I was, you know, starting to get numb to it. We heard a firefight going on. There was a PSD getting in a firefight, I guess, with the mayor's son, and just completely mowed him in half. And you know, we were idiots just sitting there. We were in our you know, PT shorts and no shirt on and vest and looking over the wall. We don't even have our Kevlar on. We're just looking over the wall and we're like, what do we got going on? You guys need help? You guys good? And you know, it turned out to be nothing for us. You know, everything was good. The dude fired on a special forces PSD and thought he would get away with it, and definitely didn't. But you know, at that point, I was numb to it all. You know, I was just sitting there like, dude, that's pretty badass. Like, I want to get in there. I want to get in on that. And that's when I started getting scared about who I was becoming. Because you know, at that point, I realized that I was starting to get screwed up just with some of the stuff that had happened. And I'm not even telling everything. But this is some of the main things that, you know, I seriously remember. Stuff that I still deal with. But yeah, so that deployment wrapped up in 2008. We came home. I started having some serious marriage problems. I pretty much checked out when I came home. I started playing World of Warcraft in 2007 when I was in Iraq, because that helped me, you know, kind of tune out of everything and just relax and not have to think about what was going on. And you know, when I did, it was, you know, I didn't think about anything. I just played. And so I came back from that, and you know, me and my wife had a few arguments, and you know, I tried to leave the room, and she'd come up behind me, stab me with keys, and you know, this is a week after I came back from deployment. So I felt that, you know, that stabbed me in the back, man, and I reacted, and that destroyed me, because I grew up being like, I'm never gonna be that guy, never gonna be that guy. And you know, that destroyed me, because you know, I grew up not to disrespect women, and I wish I had seen it back then that I had a problem, but I pretty much just stuffed it all down. Um, if I could take it back, I would, but I can't. You know, I wouldn't be here today, to be honest. And you know, I felt horrible. I still feel horrible about it. You know, that's one of the things that I still live with. But you know, she didn't realize, and I didn't realize that that was partly because I was still in deployment mode. I was still in reaction mode, and there's really no excuse. You know, it's hard, because it's it's just hard. Um, I don't know. Maybe y'all can understand, what I'm saying, but I'm having a little hard time, talking about it. But that's how we get through it. We talk about things. And like I said, I want to be completely transparent with y'all. I didn't get to where I'm at today, holding stuff in. Um, but anyhow, yeah, no, from that point on, I said I was gonna get help. Um, did I get help? Nope. I pushed it down again. Um, so 2009, 2000, well, 2000, the rest of 2008, 2009 roll around. We're dealing with PTSD stuff, not realizing I have PTSD, dealing with marriage problems, not really realizing that my marriage is in shambles, and dealing with the kids that not understanding why dad's not paying attention to them. Because when I came home, I mean, that's all I did, man. I was on my video game 24/7. I was just wanting to get away, wanting to hide. And what better way to hide than have an alter ego of a character you're a hero in? And I didn't realize then that was starting to become a problem. And that deal there, it grew into a problem that I dealt with just basically a year and a half ago. Um, I coming up, 2009. I don't remember too much of because I was really pretty much encased in that game. I mean, in 2009 I completely zoned out. I don't remember I really don't remember much of 2009. So 2010 rolls around, and I got switched over from First Brigade, 101st STB, or first STB, 101st First Brigade. You know how it goes. That nervousness and all that stuff. One STB, First Brigade, 101st Airborne Division. So they switched me over to 86 Cash, and I wasn't really liking that, and I wanted to be with the 101st. I hated that I was with a different unit. So I fought and fought and fought, tried to get out of that unit, and got into Division STB, kind of picked me up. And so I was with the HHB Battalion, 101st. And I switched over to there. I made my E5 in 86 Cash, switched over to 1 STB, or HHB STB Division, or Division STB. And I was an NCO in a JNN shelter. Turns out we were getting ready to deploy to Afghanistan in 2010, and I was all stoked for that because I did Iraq. I'm ready for Afghanistan. I want some more. Lo and behold, that was one of the deployments that completely changed my life even more. So we deploy. We were in Paktia province. I'm not going to tell you exactly where we're at, but we were in a location up in the mountains. Snow 5 months, 6 months out of the year, and we just we had a lot of stuff that we were going on. It's I thought it was funny because when we're up in that area, they have fighting season because once the snows come, they can't get back over to Pakistan. So basically, they'd come over during the summer, fight, and then come back over in cruise over to Pakistan when the cold weather comes. So that way they won't have to deal with all the snow. But these it was an interesting deployment. I say that because we had a lot of stuff happen during that deployment. So first instant, excuse my language. First instance we had, I don't remember the date exactly because I mean it was one of those things where my adrenaline was going and just I was pumping, man. I was ready to go. But we were getting in and we were getting attacked. We had another fob on the other side of us firing in between, and there was maybe about 150 insurgents that were pushing that fob, and turns out that fob was all not standard military. Needless to say, they kind of pushed the wrong fob. But anyways, they pushed that and retreated into our walls. But I remember running out and just hearing the bullets flying overhead, man. I mean, it is you never heard anything so terrifying when you hear bullets whizzing by your head as you're running to the wall, needless to say. So we're running out there, and this is straight like Call of Duty type stuff. We're running out there, and all of a sudden this F-16 just skirts right along the top of the mud huts, man, just doing a flyover and just scaring the crap out of these guys. Because once that happened, man, these guys just scattered. They're like, "Oh, air support, we're done." But yeah, no, they skirted over the top of the building, and I get out there, and me and one soldier up in the tower, and as I'm running out there, we had this one soldier. I'm not going to say his name, but he knows who he is. We were running out there. This kid, he looks over, I asked him if he needed any water or anything, and he's like, 3 more kills, man, and I unlocked the airstrike. I'm like, dude, shut up, man. Come on, man, focus. But yeah, anyways, I checked on the soldiers and went up to the tower, and we were sitting up there, and I had the radio, and we were connected with the base ops because they were watching everything from drones and cameras and just checking out everything from overhead. But we were sitting there, and we get 15 minutes after we've been up there, and then all of a sudden we see about 7 vehicles come hauling butt up this road, and I mean there's people just loaded in them. Not like ISIS where they're all dressed in black. They're dressed in just their normal clothes, but they're all sporting weapons. So they came up, charged our walls. This white truck, man, he was leading the pack. All of a sudden, he skirts off, and he just comes right towards our tower. And, I pulled my weapon up and put it off safe and finger on the trigger, and I was ready to put 2 in that window. But, my gunner was sitting there with the 249 sitting in the tower, and he's ready to go, and everyone else is down below like, do we fire, and then I told my gunner to hold fire if he gets any closer than put rounds in his hood. But anyways, he saw that he had all these guns pointing at him, and he turned off. I know it was a scare tactic to try to bait us into unloading on them. Thankfully, none of us did. That's the great thing about training, is we learn to identify a situation, pull every detail out of it, and just run with it. So none of us fired. They pulled off and went, and that was pretty much the last of that. So we went on. This was December 5th, 2010. I had just gotten off of work, literally, 6 hours before. I set my alarm for 1:30 in the afternoon to go to this bazaar that was attached to our fobs, and I just wanted to get a new pair of sunglasses. You know how it is, Hodge glasses are like $5, $10, whatever you can screw them down to. And I slept through my alarm. All 4 of them, I might add. Didn't even hear them. And I mean, then about 2:12 happens, and just hear an explosion. It shakes our deal, and we run out there and find out a suicide bomber detonated right where the sunglasses were at, right where I was supposed to be. So, um, I didn't realize two of our guys were hit in that, and running up, seeing that guy's head bouncing up and down in the concertina wire on top of the wall, that really screwed me up. On top of thinking that I was gonna go buy some sunglasses, and all of a sudden there's a crater there, right where I was gonna be. Um, then finding out two people that you had been working with pretty much most of that deployment were killed. Two guys I knew. Um, that hit me pretty hard. Um, so that day I was asking God, why them and not me. I didn't know what I was dealing with, and I look at it now and it's survivor's guilt. Um, those two guys, man, they had their whole lives ahead of them, and I know I did too, but I just didn't understand why them and not me. I was ready to go, and that really screwed me up, and that's one of the things that I've been dealing with still to this day. I mean, you just saw a second ago I was tearing up because I still have that question. Just why them and not me? But when I get to the end of it, I'll tell you why. Um, so after that deployment, after that whole incident, I started going to counseling. Um, Started on some pretty serious medication, dealing with depression and PTSD. Still not knowing I had PTSD. So coming back from that deployment and tuning out again, just on my video games, and completely, I no, there was no, I don't even remember anything in 2012. Um, Again, another year. Actually, 2012 was the one thing I do remember about 2012 is that's when I was saved. That's when I gave my life to Christ. Um, but other than that, I was still in my video games, still dealing with all that stuff, and just pushing everything down farther and farther and farther. Um, During that deployment, I sat there on my bed, holding my weapon to my head, ready to go. I even had the safety off, just didn't have my finger on the trigger because I was scared. I something was telling me to just hold on. Um, so I pushed through that. Came home 2012. I was saved. 2013, I deployed again. Well, before that, 2013, I got in trouble. I had made my E6. Got in trouble because I used I was one of those guys who used the government travel card because, good old military didn't pay us for a month and a half during the, budget stuff. So my kids needed to eat and had no other way to do it. Didn't have any credit cards or anything like that. Had a government travel card. So I used that. It came down to day 61 is when I paid it off. So they said, had you paid it off a day ago, we wouldn't be in here. So I lost my E6, dropped me back down to E5. I was undeployable. Article 15, the whole 9 yards of Article 15 for that stuff. So, and it was field grade, so it was a little bit more serious. So, my dealing with all that and finding out I can't deploy, I was a little bit relieved in a way, but in a way I was upset because I wanted to go downrange with my unit. I didn't want to stay back because I felt like I'm no good back here. But it came down to it, I ended up deploying anyways. It was kind of funny because the first sergeant, who probably one of the best first sergeants I had, he came out, brought everyone out, and he's like, all right, who's got C+, who's got A+, who's got S+, all security stuff and programming and whatnot for computers and stuff like that. And I happened to be the only one that raised my hand. And I looked at top, and I'm like, I can't deploy. So he looked at me, and he's like, we got you. So they took care of all that stuff. I deployed downrange. The only thing I didn't get back was my rank. So, yeah, I was a little butthurt about that. But, I was thankful that I was able to deploy. So we got downrange, and we were in Bagram. I know you all heard of Bagram. But anyways, we were in Bagram, and we were taking incoming. It felt like every other day. I started going to a CrossFit gym there, and I met my buddy Kevin Doncaster, who is the founder of Warhawk PTSD Service Dogs, here in Bartlesville, Oklahoma. And I met him not knowing that I would be here with him today. He's actually one of the guys that got me up over the past year and a half, that gave me hope. And but anyways, I had I met him during that deployment through the CrossFit gym. He was contracting, and I thought this dude was a squared away dude and all that stuff, and so I kept in contact with him. But that deployment really screwed me up as well, because I was sitting there dealing with my PTSD, dealing with all this stuff, and then all of a sudden I found out my wife, my first wife, ran off with another guy. Met another guy a month after I deployed, ran off with him before I even came home. Had my kids moved in with him, and calling him dad before I even came home. And you know what? I don't want anybody bad-mouthing her anyway. Like I said, I'm just telling my story. That's my kid's mom, and I don't want anybody bad-mouthing her or anything like that. Because she did what she thought was right. So I came home, didn't have anybody at my welcome home ceremony. My kids did not want to come and see me. They were, convinced that I'm just this evil person. So, one of my buddies from church, I'm not going to mention his name either, just out of respect. But he came and picked me up. He was with one of the military units there at Fort Campbell. He picked me up and took me home and stayed with me that first day, and was like, hey man, I just want to make sure you're good, and because I came home, dude, and I was just devastated. I told him I was good, but I definitely wasn't, because that night I downed about 11 Percocet and a bottle of Jack. And interesting thing about that was one of the attempts that I attempted suicide, but I was convinced I was done. I was ready to go. Dealing with my wife, dealing with PTSD, dealing with being bullied, dealing with the stuff I dealt with when I was a kid. I was checked out. I was completely done. I didn't want to feel it anymore. I was tired of the pain, and nobody could say anything to get me out of that. So I downed 11 Percocet and drank the drank the drink. And I woke up the next day with the Percocet in the floor along with the alcohol. And I truly believe God was the one who saved me on that. So fast forward a little bit because I only got about 10 minutes left. So I met my second wife in 2015. We got married in 2016. And, she's an amazing woman. We're currently separated right now, and that's perfectly fine because she's doing what she needs to do for herself. And I am okay with that. But anyhow, I met her and I finally started realizing I had PTSD. I finally started realizing I had all these problems. And this is eight years later, from when the first incident happened. On top of, the PTSD and the crap that I was dealing with as a kid. So, fast forward a little bit, just kind of, going on, she decided to take off about a year and a half ago because I would continue to lie about the video game, and this video game was a problem. That's because the video game turned into an addiction. I'm talking 14 to 16 hours a day, every single day, not going out looking for a job, forgetting to pay bills, forgetting to take medication, forgetting to eat, forgetting to sleep, thinking about it 24/7, and it just took over. But I gave that up the day before she walked out. I had saw her at an event that she was holding, and I showed up to help break down and whatnot, and she ran up, gave me a hug. This was the day before, she kicked me out. She gave me a huge hug and said, I appreciate you and I love you so much. I told her I appreciated her and I was proud of her. Just held her. In that moment, I realized that I needed to give up my game. That I had a problem and I needed to get rid of it. So that moment right there in the park in Denison, Texas, I gave up my video game. I gave up my addiction. And so we went to bed that night, and we went to bed in each other's arms, and we were good. And then woke up Sunday morning, and my world ended. I thought we were getting ready to go to church, and turns out, she checked a Facebook post or a Facebook message that I sent to somebody saying that I was going to get back into my game. This was a few days before that, that I was going to, looking forward to the new expansion and all that stuff. But lo and behold, I quit the day before she kicked me out. And I've been video game free for the past year and a half. So I'm sticking by it. That doesn't make me a better person. So, what I do now is making me a better person. But she's been out for a year and a half dealing with her own PTSD from her marriage. And, I'm not going to go into detail on that because it's her business and I don't want her business all over this place. And I don't think she'd really, it'd be respectful to her to talk about her stuff. But anyways, I understand that she's dealing with problems too. And I'm at a position now in my life to where I have changed my focus and perspective from where I used to be to where I am now. This perspective that I have, I look back 3 weeks ago, and I sent out a post on my Instagram. I know some of you probably saw it. Some of you probably liked it. It was a post about a locust that landed exactly where I tied this horse up. And 2 hours before that, I asked God. I was like, God, I need something from you. I need to know what you got for me. What do I need to do? And then this locust shows up right there on this exactly where I'm going to tie up this horse. And I was like, great, what's going to happen to the horse? What's going to happen to the ranch? What's going to happen to this? What's going to happen to that? And I was like, God, can you clarify, please? So another 2 hours later, rolls around, and God says destruction of old self. and that stuck with me. I mean, that completely opened my eyes, man. So now I'm sitting here, wanting to reach out to others who have PTSD, others that have depression, others that have been through child abuse, have been, sexually abused, others that have been in bad marriages or contemplating divorce. I can help. And, I just want this show to be a place you can go to get answers. I'm gonna set up some stuff. I'm gonna keep playing with the channel, so that way I can have a chat room up. So that way I can answer questions. I can do that stuff. I'm also gonna bring people on next week. I'm not sure if I have anybody coming on, but I'm working out a few people that are willing to come on and tell their story, and do some question and answers, and just open it up for people to come and share. So I'm really excited about this. I'm happy that I can finally, I'm in a place now to where I can do this. And just so you guys know now, it wasn't easy for me to get here. When something big happens, it's never easy to get to that point. But when it does happen, jump on it, man, and just go for it. Because that's why I'm doing what I'm doing right now, and that's why I'm here right now. And I'm not giving up. I'm pushing through, and that's what it takes. Sometimes you got to push through the hard stuff, get through the hard stuff. Don't give up. Lean on others, and there's people that talk about getting rid of negative people. I don't agree with that, because that negative person might be crying out for suicide, might be crying out for help. Just kind of sit back, pray on it. Just look at the situation, think about what they went through to get to the point to where they're at now. Because, nature versus nurture, it's not human nature to want to be angry all the time. We're not born angry. We're not born depressed. We're not born with this. We're not born with PTSD. We're not born with this or that. And, the world is a place where things happen and people change. So, look at somebody, maybe this next week, if you have someone you're working with that is just getting on your nerves, take yourself out of that situation and just look from their perspective, look at their point of view and see what they're dealing with, and just, go up to them, and, if they talk to you, cool. If not, just say, hey man, how you doing? Is there anything you want to talk about, or can I sit here and listen, anything? And, if they go into it, awesome. Don't say anything. Just let them talk. Don't offer advice. Just let them talk, because that's what it took for me to get to where I'm at today. And, I didn't get to everything that I wanted to talk about, but, my show is not going anywhere. I'm going to keep doing this. I'm going to keep pushing through, and, cause that's what it takes. So, I appreciate you all for coming in and checking me out, and I love you all, and I hope everything goes well with you. I love you guys, and I really mean that. Y'all matter, and just keep doing what you're doing. I love y'all. All right, take it easy.